Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us tonight are Mark Ogden from ESPN and the Mirror's chief football writer, John Cross. Welcome to you both, gents. Good to have you here. Let's quickly run through the back pages as they reach us after a late night in the Carabao Cup. Stirs stuck is the headline in the Mirror. That is the Raheem Sterling situation at Chelsea. Toon's spot of magic on Tonali return. And Fed happy to be a Red. United agrees Sancho's switch to Juve is in the Metro. Undercooked Emma ready for a rethink after US Open exit. That's a tennis story, of course. Liverpool seal £10 million Chiesa deal, while the Times also covers Raducanu's exit from US Open in tears, and they ask, so what now? That's effect on Newcastle's dramatic win over Nottingham Forest then, with the back page of the Mirror. Toon's spot of magic on Tonali return. We'll get to Sandro Tonali, John, but first and foremost, how important a result for Newcastle, whose long quest for a trophy goes on?
Well, as you say, Teddy, I mean, the Newcastle really love a cup run, don't they, to be honest? And the game had nice twists and turns. You know, Newcastle taking an early lead through Joe Willock, pegged back, goes to penalties. And then actually Forest take sort of kind of almost first blood, but then two terrible missed penalties from Forest. And the dramatic penalty shootout ends in Newcastle's favour. Wow. I mean, what a conclusion there from Sean Longstaff, really. But look, as I say, I do think Newcastle really, they are a club moving upwards trajectory under Eddie Howe. We know the tradition and the love affair that the fans have with a cup run. And I think the Carabao Cup, you know, is such a great opportunity for a big team like a Newcastle to really go to Wembley and sort of, you know, having been there before in recent times and sort of really sort of end that long wait for a bit of silverware. I love the coverage tonight, I would say, Teddy. I loved it. I think the sort of the drama over the last couple of days has been terrific. You can see all the goals flying in. I love these early rounds of the competition. I love it goes straight to penalties. And I tell you what, I do think the sort of kind of, you know, these early rounds are always a good shot in the arm for the competition. And it's one clearly that Newcastle have got their sights set upon.
Indeed, an opportunity for Sandro Tonali to make his return, Mark, after 10 months out. I don't know if you caught much of the game tonight, but how important a player could he be for Newcastle this season?
Well, they signed him last year to be a big player, didn't they, from AC Milan? And obviously, he played a couple of months and then he hit his ban in October time, I think. So, look, I mean, from Tonali's point of view, getting back on the pitch is what matters, isn't it? I suppose he has to look at it like an injury, like he's been out of the game for 10 months with a cruciate or a bad ankle injury or something. He just has to have that in his mind rather than, I suppose, getting through it. Just have that mindset. But he's back on the pitch now, and he was a big signing for Newcastle at the time. They need more. I think they need more around him. But obviously, with Bruno Guimaraes alongside him as well, they've got a real makings of a good midfield there. But it will take time for Tonali to kind of hit his best form. But you know, Newcastle probably need more players. They've had a fairly quiet window, but having Tonali back, it's that old cliche. He'll be like a new signing, but it really is because he didn't play enough last season to kind of justify the fee that they signed him for. But he can put it behind him now. The team can put it behind him, and hopefully, from Tonali's point of view, it's an episode that he can reflect upon and move forward.
Yeah, he's had some pretty profound things to say, hasn't he, about a sense of perspective after that ban for gambling and how grateful he is to be a footballer making lots of money. They have Tottenham at the weekend. We'll see if Tonali's involved for Newcastle. Let's talk, though, on the back page of the Times, John, about Liverpool, who the Times say seal the £10 million Chiesa deal. How important a signing could this be for Liverpool? Or is it a surprising one, John? Did you think they were pretty well stocked out wide?
Yeah, I do think they've got options out wide. I mean, particularly, you know, I was at Anfield on Sunday and sort of you've got Harvey Elliott to name one, but sort of kind of coming on. And so they have got different options. And obviously they're playing a slightly different way. You know, Jota through the middle right now, but then you kind of potentially got Nunez to come back. But I do think this is a potentially really good signing. It's an interesting one. It's an eye-catching one. I'll tell you why, because of the price. I mean, basically, you know, this is a real big player in Chiesa who's basically started for Italy, started for Juve. He's got into the final year of his contract. Yes, the doubt, and I presume this is why it sort of feeds into the fee, is because he's had injury problems, particularly a sort of a cruciate knee issue in the past. Now, I do think this is potentially a smart bit of business for Liverpool. It's probably one also, I think, you know, if I can say it, is for the fans, because I do think the Liverpool fans have been slightly, sort of restless about the lack of transfer activity. And I think this is one just to sort of kind of get them going again. And I think he's a player of quality, but if he can deliver and play on a regular basis for Liverpool, I think this could be a really smart signing. 10 million potentially rising to 12.5 for a fully fledged Italy international at the peak of his powers, still sort of kind of mid-20s. Then I actually think this could be a really good signing, smart signing for Liverpool.
Smart signing, John says in the piece by Paul Joyce and Paul Hurst, the back page of the Times, Mark, they do say in there that the relatively low valuation reflects the fact that he'd entered into the final year of his contract at Juventus, did not want to countenance losing him for nothing next summer. What's your take on the deal, Mark? Is it to appease the fans or are they still short of something else, maybe Liverpool, a central striker, a defensive midfielder people have looked at?
Well, obviously they were looking for a number 6 with Zubimendi, but that deal didn't happen. So it is a surprise. But I'm with Cross on this. That Chiesa was a really good player. Euro 2020, he played a big part in Italy winning it, but he's had really, really bad luck with injuries, and I think he needs a move now to relaunch his career. From Liverpool's perspective, it is a no-lose because they've got so many attacking players. You just wonder whether they've got so many games this season with the expanded Champions League. They're not going to have people like Salah, Jota, Nunez, Gakpo fit all the time. So it's a great option to have. And, if it doesn't work out, what have they lost? £10 million, which nowadays is nothing. If it comes off, it's a great signing. But there's a big question mark over his fitness because he hasn't been able to play enough games for Juventus over the last 2 or 3 years to earn a new contract. So you do wonder a little bit whether the owners are thinking, look, we've not signed a player yet. They signed a goalkeeper and loaned him straight back to Valencia. So perhaps it's one to appease the fans. But listen, if Liverpool fans need appeasing, I don't think they're going to be appeased by a £10 million player that's had a lot of injuries. But Liverpool have got a really strong squad. They probably don't need that much that work to it anyway. So I think Chiesa is an interesting signing, and it could go either way. But hopefully, for his point of view, it goes well.
Competition out wide at Liverpool, then a lot of competition at Chelsea. John, let's come to your piece in the back page of the Mirror. Stir is stuck. Raheem sweating on exit or a season on sidelines at Chelsea. That's a pretty bleak prospect. How likely for Raheem Sterling is that, John?
Yeah, look, I do think it's really in the balance now. I think it's a big 48 hours ahead for Chelsea. There's no doubt about it. They've got a hell of a lot of players to move within that period of time. Yes, they'd like to bring in more players, Jadon Sancho, of course, potentially a striker yet, Osimhen and, maybe even sort of a late sort of move for Tony. But to do that, to facilitate that, they've got to move Sterling on and basically, and players like that. And I'm not completely sort of comfortable, I must say. I don't think Sterling's been treated incredibly, potentially particularly well. I mean, he spent all sort of kind of season thinking he was going to be a big player for Maresca this season, was sort of kind of front and centre of a new sort of kind of impact campaign going into the season. And the first kind of hint that he wouldn't be part of it was on the Friday when he had a sort of chat with Maresca ahead of the first game of the season. Since then, he's been ostracised. Look, he's on a big contract. You can't hide from that. £325,000 a week. He's not the one that's been agitating to move. So he's made it absolutely clear that he's committed to Chelsea and wanted ideally to stay. So they've kind of got to find a solution here. And there's not many other teams in the Premier League who really have kind of got that money to match. I think his preference, I think, is to stay in English football, because he's very proud to play for England in the past and I think wants to regain that place. I don't think, therefore, he'd be particularly keen on Saudi at all. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I do think that Chelsea are causing problems for themselves here if they end up with 2 or 3, still Ben Chilwell, of course, sort of other players, if there's a heavy dressing room with big players, big names, who, as well as they might be behaving, and I've no reason to doubt that I still think, you're causing yourselves problems if you've stored up players who are not going to play. That's not a recipe for a happy and sort of harmonious squad at all.
Indeed, we wish Raheem Sterling all the best, and indeed Ben Chilwell and other players affected at Chelsea in the next couple of days on Sky Sports News, all the transfer lines as they come. Another player who's had a troubled time, back page of the Sun, I think we saw it flash up there, Sancho scrap. Juventus in talks to secure Jadon on loan, but Maresca hints at a late Chelsea move. Mark, of course, it's your patch, Manchester United. What's happening with Sancho? We thought he'd patched all things up with Erik ten Hag.
Well, it's an uneasy truce with Erik ten Hag, and I think both sides did it from pragmatic point of view that, Sancho wasn't going to get his move to Dortmund, back to Dortmund. Ten Hag didn't really want this to continue for another season. I think the owners made it clear to both that it's in your best interest to bury the hatchet and let's see where it takes us. But I think there was always a possibility that Sancho would be moved on. And I think United's preference would be to do a deal with Juventus, because that would enable them to get him off the wage bill, whether it's by loan or by sale. I think the proposal of a Raheem Sterling swap deal with Chelsea doesn't really stack up for United, but it's one that they would consider if on Friday evening that Sancho's still there and they haven't got him out of the club. But the ideal scenario for United is to, at some point, get some money back, because they've spent a lot of money on the fee, a lot of money on the wages, and he's clearly got no future in the plans of Erik ten Hag. So they need to get him out of the club. He's got 2 years left on his contract. It's a big contract. So I think Juventus are the favourites, but United aren't going to get what they want for him. But equally, they'll probably get more from Juventus than they would do with Chelsea, because if they're swapping for Raheem Sterling, they're not cutting costs, because they're going to have to take on Raheem Sterling's contract, which is longer than Jadon Sancho. So that one for me doesn't really stack up unless both clubs are desperate on Friday night. So Juventus, good option for Sancho, good option for United. Juventus need a forward now because Chiesa's going to Liverpool. So it does make a lot of sense, that one.
OK, just before we go to the break, I'll come to John in a second. But Mark, what's your sense of the next couple of days as far as the transfer window goes? Do you expect it to be busy for Manchester United and across the board?
I think it'd be one of the more interesting windows. I mean, the last few transfer windows have been a bit of a damp squib, haven't they? But I think with Sterling's future uncertain, with Sancho's future, Ben Chilwell, like John said, I think there are some big names out there that need a move. And one caveat is that the Saudi window doesn't close until October. So a lot of clubs can still find, a way to get them out of the club to Saudi. And even the Turkish window opens till mid-September. So there are options. But I think Friday, there'll be a lot of business. I think there's a lot of clubs that need to do some business. So, yeah, I think Friday's going to be quite exciting.
John, what are you expecting? To be busy?
Loans. Yeah, loans, Teddy. I really feel that, the last couple of days will be defined by a few clubs having to offload players. And suddenly you'll see decent names, decent opportunities pop up. And I do think, even clubs that sort of almost hinting that they're done might just find a little bit more, to find a creative loan and sort of kind of try and press ahead with that. I think the Tony Sterling, ones to watch, Sancho, of course. But I think there might be some creative loans. And I think that might be, a sort of kind of, it's been quite a fashion, this market in this window. And I think that will continue into the final couple of days.
Yep, look forward to the next 48 hours or so and hope everyone finds a happy home. Gents, we'll take a quick pause there, quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in the Telegraph. White's self-imposed England exile continues under the new man, Carsley. We'll talk about that in a few moments. Welcome back. You are watching Back Pages tonight, and it's welcome back to Mark Ogden from ESPN and the Mirror's chief football writer, John Cross. Let's go to the back page of The Sun. Little sideburst story by Jordan Davis, but significant because we're on the cusp of the Champions League draw in the new expanded era, and they say no hack for draw. Champions League draw organisers adamant cyber attackers will not be able to sabotage today's digital draw, today being Thursday. UEFA have hired AI specialists for the new 36-team single league format, which features Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Aston Villa. Let's hope all is well with that. Mark, how excited are you about the new format or not?
I am actually. Me and Crossy were at a UEFA briefing end of last season about this new format, and I must admit I was quite sceptical when I went into it, but afterwards I thought actually it's a good idea, it's going to work, and it basically keeps the tournament alive until hopefully the last game of the group. So there shouldn't be any situations where the likes of Man City or Liverpool run away with the group and be qualified by mid-October. There is a real sense of not jeopardy but excitement in the sense that I think 24 teams can qualify. So in the final round of games, there's going to be a lot of live action. So, and it does matter to finish top or top two, because once we get through the league stage, you have a kind of a tennis draw whereby the top two will know that they can't meet until the final. So there's an importance to finishing top and finishing second. So if you're Man City, Real Madrid, you know that if you're top two, you're not going to meet until the final. So it matters to every team in it. And I think that the one thing that doesn't really grab me is the sense that you can't play these teams home and away. So Aston Villa, for instance, have been out of the European Cup for 40 years and they're desperate to get back. They might get Real Madrid. So if you're a Villa fan that's desperate to see Real Madrid at Villa Park, great, but you might not see them at Villa Park. You might only see them at the Bernabeu, which, I do think the home and away element is important, but you're not going to get that. So, but UEFA have had to change things a little bit because of the threat of the Super League. And I think what they've done, it's the best of a a bad situation. So I think fans need to give it a bit of time. It will take a bit of working out, and obviously it's a very complicated draw with AI involved. So, and apparently we're not going to get the actual match dates until Saturday because it's going to take so long for the TV companies and the computers to work it out. So a bit of a wait to decide when to book your flights to these glamorous destinations.
All goes well with technology until it goes wrong, doesn't it, John? A lot of us traditionalists would, of course, love the jeopardy of a straight knockout tournament from round one, but we're a long way from that. What do you make of it? Mark referencing there, perhaps a disparity, depending on your home and away draws, may not be completely fair and completely fun?
Yeah, look, I do think, Teddy, it's a balance in my view. As Mark was saying, I mean, we did go to this UEFA briefing not so long back, and I went in thinking, yeah, I understand this. I've got the grasp of this, and left a little bit more confused than when I went in, to be honest. And it will take a little bit of time to kind of get your head around it. Yes, in the draw tomorrow, you're going to see familiar looking pots, for example, in the draw, and teams will come out. But I do think we need to move away from that kind of group where you could end up with really boring group match day 6 sort of things in the Champions League. We did need a reshuffle. My concern is, are we getting too many games, basically? Football is just this weird place, isn't it? I mean, you won't find a bigger football fan on the planet than me. I'd watch any game if it was live on TV. But we also need to kind of just keep it that bit special and not completely overkill it. I worry about the players a little bit going into the season. What a season they had last year. We've got to keep football special. So we've got to strike that balance. So I'll be very keen to see how it works out, because there are more matches, more fixtures. Hopefully that brings more excitement, but also brings drama, but also I hope it brings quality, because honestly, if we exhaust the players and we're on the cusp, I do worry about it, that then, that's creating more problems than actually it solves by a new level format. But listen, I'm open-minded. I think it's exciting for this season. And I actually think the Champions League needed something new. So hopefully the draw will bring us some excitement tomorrow.
A lot of excitement for Aston Villa fans back in the mix for the first time in 40 years. Mark, what do they want from this draw, though, do you think? Is it glamorised, or is it something more comfortable as they try and balance matters in perhaps a way that Newcastle couldn't quite manage last season?
I think they'll definitely want glamorised, and because of the way this system is now worked out, they will get glamorised. They will get a couple of teams from pot 1, which are the big, the Bayern Munich, Real Madrid of this world. So they will get a big tie. I guess it's a balance of both, isn't it? They want those big games, but they also want a chance of progression. With in mind the sense, like you said, Newcastle struggled last year with the extra workload, so they'll need to be mindful of that. There's 8 group games. Well, it's not a group anymore, but there's 8 games at this stage. So, but they are spread over a few more weeks. I think it ends in January. So Villa want the excitement of it. Who knows when Villa will be in the Champions League again? This might be a run of a few seasons that they're in it, but it might not be. They might be out of it for another 40 years. So enjoy it while you can, but hopefully get some big games and some glamorous opposition in the draw.
Look forward to that tomorrow evening. It'll be 5 p.m. UK time and onwards. Hopefully swift with that technology. Let's go to the back page of the Mail. Talk about England's upcoming games. And Ben White not involved. The Mail in one of many papers reporting. White stays away. Self-exiled defender will not return to England fold, writes Sammy Mockbell. John, is that your understanding of the situation? And how sad is this for lots of parties involved, particularly England fans?
Yeah, we've done this story as well in the Mirror. And yeah, I do think Ben White, you struggle to find a better right back right now in the country, in the Premier League, based on form. I think he's been exceptional. Look, it's been, well publicised, isn't it? They're basically, sort of left the squad early in Qatar. Then obviously, turned down the chance to come back for England in March when Gareth Southgate gave him a call. And basically, I think it's effectively down to him, basically, to kind of almost say, look, I'm ready to return. That hasn't happened yet. And, that's Ben White's decision. Look, I just don't, I get the sense that Ben White is so much more focused on playing for Arsenal. And basically at the moment, England and all the kind of controversy and the history and background behind it almost makes it, more of a complication. I think it's a shame that basically Ben White, the best English right back right now, in my eyes, isn't playing for England. But that's his choice. I don't think it's the worst crime in the world. I think in March, a few people sort of said, it was a terrible thing to do. Really? I think if a player wants to sort of focus on his club career, it's one of those things. I can't really see a way back for him, I'll be honest. And I think that's a little bit sad, really. But I also think that for Lee Carsey, he's interim manager. Is he really going to kind of make make that biggest call, to sort of kind of, bring him back. Again, it's one of those that I think the sort of kind of long-term appointment, whether that's Kazi or someone else, just has to make that call and smooth it out, because I think ultimately White should be in the squad.
In form, right back and play centre-half as well, can't he, Mark? What do you expect from Lee Carsley's first England squad? Any surprises? I suppose Steve McLaren dropping David Beckham springs to mind in terms of those landmark moments we've had in the past. Is there anything comparable here? Phil Foden left out? Anything dramatic? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to see Harry Kane or Phil Foden drop for this one. There might be a couple of younger players. I feel like Noni Madueke from Chelsea, he knows something in the 21s, and I think, Lee Carsley's got 4 games, I guess, maybe to earn the England job. And I don't know if the opposition's strong enough to earn the England job, but if he makes a good impression, so he's going to have to do it his way. There's no point in doing it anybody else's way if he wants to get the job. So obviously Jude Bellingham's not fit. He can't join up this time. So there aren't many options, I don't think, to make a change. And obviously Raheem Sterling wants back in, but he's not going to get back in. He's not playing. Marcus Rashford the same. So I think it'll be a fairly stable squad. I don't really see any surprises, but obviously Ben White, Lee Carsley might not have wanted him. So if Ben White doesn't want to play, well, fair enough. But if Lee Carsley doesn't pick him, it's not really that big a deal for Ben White, is it? So we'll see, but I don't think it's going to be too many surprises.
OK, we'll watch the space then for that England squad. Let's talk tennis. Mark, come back to you as Backpages Tonight unofficial tennis correspondent. Emma Raducanu as well, one of the favourite topics we often bring to you as a football reporter. Undercooked Emma ready for a rethink after US Open exit. Still to win a match at Flushing Meadows, Mark, since she won the tournament. How difficult a situation is Emma in? She's had so many injuries as well.
Yeah, I was expecting this question, Teddy, so don't worry about that. Look, I mean, it's quite a sad story, isn't it? And obviously, Emma Raducanu was upset after the result of the US Open last night. And I think we have to accept that there's been some great sporting triumphs over the years. Greece winning the Euros in 2004, Leicester winning the Premier League, and they have never gone close again. And maybe Emma Raducanu achieved an incredible success when she won the US Open, but that may be beyond her again. And I think she's had so many injuries. She's had lots of coaches. And it clearly, with her tears after the defeat, it's probably getting to her. And I think the pressure on her is incredible. And I think we probably expect a bit too much of her as well because of what she achieved. She hit the stars when nobody expected her to. And we're kind of judging her by that now. So hopefully she goes away and rebuilds her career. But I think the big problem going into this tournament was that she didn't play enough games. She pulled out of the Olympics in Paris. She didn't play enough warm-up games. And I think sometimes the people around her should look at her schedule and think, something, she needs to play a little bit more and just get back to an even keel.
Brilliant answer, Mark. Thank you very much for that. And John, pleasure to have you on Backpages Tonight. So thanks for watching. Another chance to watch the show at 1:30. We're also available as a podcast. Download Backpages wherever you get your podcast. On Thursday night, Jonathan Liu and Miguel Delaney join us. Up next, for all the details, a dramatic night in the Carabao Cup as Eddie Howe's Newcastle side win through. Action and reaction to come. Stay with us on Sky Sports News.